I want to watch this video because it talks about, at least I believe, I haven't finished watching it, or I just really started the first 5 seconds of it to see what it's about. It looks like it's about the new baddies in Dragonflight and why they're so much better than anything we got in Shadowlands. Because I do like the Primal Incarnates. I think they're interesting baddies. Each one has its own attitude, and I thought Razageth was a pretty cool intro boss for an expansion. But why are they so much better than Shadowlands bosses? Why are they so much better than the Jailer? Let's see what Bellular has to say about it. Here we go.
Zovaal was WoW's worst villain ever, right? I mean, more than just being pretty boring, he actively damaged that which he was grafted onto. Well, as Ian Bates, or the red shirt guy, pointed out, the Incarnates are way more interesting villains than the Jailer was, despite having almost no build-up and being totally new to this expansion. And that kind of sparked a thought. How?
One thing about the Incarnates is they weren't grafted onto any previous lore, like the Jailer was with his infectious shit that he was attached to the Lich King for.
Why? I mean, sure,
these guys are
no
better.
Arthas, but remember, it took a full game and an expansion to tell the story of Arthas, and we have only seen
Comparing any boss to Arthas is a bad idea.
Tiny slice of the Incarnates.
Yeah, they are not bald
so
men with
far.
big nipples. That's a plus
Has Blizzard
too.
actually learned how to make good villains again? How have they been able to do it with so little screen time? And is the third part of this triplet my sponsor segue? Yes. Squarespace.com/Bellular Gaming, the place to rapidly establish yourself on the web.
What a segue.
Build your site for free today and then send it live with code Bellular Gaming for 10% off your first purchase. Squarespace has an awesome range of tools to help you succeed online. I mean, take bio sites. You could have something that honestly looks a bit naff, or you could use Squarespace bio sites.
Oh, look at that.
They do them real well. They look absolutely
Code
great.
Bellular.
You can have multiple bio sites with unlimited links, animated backgrounds, and even features like tipping and crowdfunding, all with analytics. It's a perfect way to just get started. I mean, what if you're a consultant, or maybe you have a reservation-based business? Well, Squarespace Talk lets you handle reservations for all of that. If you want to do memberships, like for your newsletter or whatever,
we can do the achievements on Real Blue.
Do that.
Yeah, we could do the
letting
achievements.
you run your own membership site on your actual site, your actual domain, rather than just you having a page on some other business's site. Going through what they've built with their other features like scheduling, like e-commerce.
What's the plans today, Sam? Bring your alts. We're probably going to do a normal clear.
You run your business as simply and efficiently as you can. A one-stop solution to your web presence problems. So whether you're doing some email newsletter stuff, have a community, have products to sell, or just want a link in bio site that actually stands out, or maybe a beautiful portfolio to help you land that next gig, Squarespace has you covered. So build your site for free today using their award-winning templates, and Squarespace.com/Bellular Gaming for 10% off your first purchase when you're ready to send it live.
Okay, thank you.
The Incarnates and Primalists are a new concept to Dragonflight, but they're not an out-of-nowhere threat. They existed in the world before, we just didn't happen to know. So why aren't we calling it an ass pool? Well, for a start, any villain that doesn't pretend they've been part of the universe since the very start of time is going to be an improvement on what we just had. The Incarnates haven't influenced the entire history of our universe, right? Without our knowledge. I
hated that shit. Trying to tell us that old lore was based on, oh, you idiots, you dummies, you didn't know that Zovaal was controlling all of this shit that you used to know and love? No. The Primal Incarnates are their own thing. They are their own thing, and they make sense. Even though they've been around all this time, they don't have to have influenced everything we did prior to meeting them. No. They're their own thing. They have their own motivations, and they're pretty cool.
Of course, how the Jailer was surgically inserted into the game, like a handful of darts thrown blind. But I don't want to sit here and just be all like, well done, Blizzard, you avoided destroying the whole lore and making a huge mistake. Here's your lore badge, take your gun back, officer, you're back in the team. I'm not going to do that, because they've actually gone a bit further than that, and they've done a good-ass job.
They have.
The Incarnates may not be an Arthas tier villain, or some award-winning, like, deep set of characters. But what they are is really well done in a bunch of ways. The first major win was how they've been introduced by characters that we know, not like just by the game. The first time we are introduced to Razageth is when she escapes.
Yeah.
That makes a hell of a lot of sense.
That does make sense. She's been irrelevant for all these years. Now she escapes. Okay, she's relevant, so now we find out who she is. The jailer would have been fine if he had his own lore, probably. I think the fact that they touched on such good lore, right, such great past lore, and then they tried to attach it to this new boss to make him relevant, I think it pissed off everybody. I'm not gonna lie. And him himself was not a very interesting character, so they were kind of ruining the old lore that they attached to him. Whereas this, yeah, this makes sense. Okay, why don't we know about Razageth? Well, she was kind of gone. That's what we don't know about her.
Time we know about her, and it's also when she reemerges into the world. It's a mad dash to stop her from being freed in the first place, and it's all being led by none other than a Grim Totem. That is a name that we recognize. Evil Tauren, shamanism, elements. We know those. She's called the Mistress of Storms, the Storm Eater, which, yeah, goes kind of hard. The fact people of Azeroth have been recruited by her and others into this rogue faction called the Primalists, and so many of them are like the shaman races and oddly some night elves. Well, that all actually does hint at the Incarnates leading a...
See, like, what you can say about the Primal Incarnates is they are attached to old lore, right? Because it turns out that these dragon aspects that we've known since the beginning of WoW, essentially, you know, Alexstrasza is not a new name to WoW. We've known her forever. And she has a relationship with Razageth, right? But Razageth's lore, even though it's attached to some old lore, is not trying to change the old lore. There's nothing new here. We've always known that the Titans are kind of fucked up, and we found out little by little that they're even more fucked up than we thought they were. So the fact that maybe they made some questionable decisions and kind of screwed over these Primal Incarnates and all the other dragons, okay, that's fine. That's good lore. It makes sense. And it's not changing old lore. It's just discovering some new things. The Zoval shit tried to change everything, and it was annoying in doing so.
Very real revolution, and being, by virtue of numbers, kind of maybe slumbering. A group with a point. I mean, that's still a bit threadbare, but Razageth herself is not. The first bit of her dialogue is about the elements, and based on our history with Ragnaros, Alakir, and Therazane, we get that instant connection to old journeys, old adventures, older content.
There you go.
But not in the Shadowlandsy way of contextualizing stuff.
It looks like I'm just pre-saying everything before Bellular says maybe I should stop.
Just familiar, and we get it, and it feels like it's a part of the world.
But not changing attachment.
Then there's her actual character and relationships. Her voice, it's expressive, emotive. Her dialogue is not cold and lifeless like the jailers.
THV, did you calm down?
It's pithy and smug.
Did you calm down?
The elements sing.
My God.
She reveled in Neltharion's death and threatens Rathian, who cowers under her with the same fate.
Yeah, my... Good.
That's all fun stuff. And she immediately has a motive, right? Scour the world of the Titan's stain. Alexstrasza and Nosdormu introduce her more properly later, and the way they animate and deliver their lines about how dangerous these incarnates are, but how they are family, you know, different.
Yeah, they're family, exactly. That's the relation.
It works. You do get a sense, right? Of
Alexstrasza called them clutchmates when she talked about Razageth.
History. So,
and the other primal incarnates.
We have a clear motive. Check. We have some character, some relationships. Check.
Yeah.
We've also got her power level being shown by dwarfing Rathian, causing everybody to flee. Check. But out of everything, the most important is that history and how that actually makes her feel. And this is capitalized upon during her fight with Alexstrasza.
A good cinematic.
The dialogue, of course, is doing much of the work pretty quickly. Alex pleads for peace.
Good morning, Raiko. Thank you so much for the sub, man. Continuing to be a Death Knight of our scourge. 5 months.
Raz says that Alex stole thousands of years from them.
And 2 points for the entry if you want to get that.
Betrayed the world and forced the Titans' edicts on them. and cast the incarnates out, right? She was betrayed by her family and has had thousands of years to swirl around, well, all of this rage, all this emotion in her head, so obviously it becomes rage and spite. The constant lightning crackling out when she's on screen and speaking like she's mad. We can feel her anger. We get to see more of her in the raid too, when she lends Dathia the power that ultimately could defeat the raid, us,
God,
but also will definitely kill Dathia. You see that way that she clearly does not value Dathia at all as a person. She's just a tool, which adds a bit of a tragic layer.
The most annoying voiceover ever? Dathia, the Karen of all WoW bosses? That's who we're talking about?
To the primalist rank and file, and a harder edge to what the incarnates actually believe. We learn so much then from so little, right? Just a few interactions, but we do end up having a pretty complete picture of her. And despite her quick death in the raid, that is important. When she dies and her family are freed, everything we now know about her gets passed naturally over to them by association. All of her rage, her spite, and they surely feel the same. Except it's worse now, because we just murdered their sister.
You're right.
All of this is to highlight how much you've been made to understand and care about these characters in little small ways. And that is where good villains come from.
You know what else is cool about these primal incarnates? Each one has a very interesting personality that you can see just from like from the 1 to 2 to 3 minutes cutscenes. They all have a cool personality that's different from each other. I like them a lot.
Screen time, empathetic motives, and being just memorable characters with designs that stand out. That's all stuff that's actually happened here. I mean, Razageth was so damn smug and fiery. She was always laughing brutally, delivering her lines all hammed up with glee. She felt like a proper, scary, crazy, over-the-top villain.
Right.
And her brothers and sisters, they seem to match.
Agreed.
The rest of the incarnates. These are just fantastic designs, aren't they? They are different than traditional elementals, but they do represent them in humanoid form so beautifully, I think. The contrast between the aspect visages that, of course, look like mortals but are a bit enhanced. And
Bellular is a cultured man. He calls them visages.
the purpose of
their
them,
visage forms were amazing.
Mingling. And then these.
Or their visages, I should say. These were great. These were so good. I love their visage forms.
Which are comparatively monstrous. These forms, compared to the dragons, are obviously a more emotive and relatable format. And yeah, it is just the basic technique of go anthro, and you can have a humanoid face, do emotions, and that works. Yeah. Dragons are cool, but yeah, it's seeing those human faces that's what makes us care, especially with how the artists have executed on these ones. It helps to give them personas immediately, to the point where people are actually kind of now a bit upset that we didn't see Razageth's form, and I dearly hope that maybe in a flashback we actually get to... I was going to
say, maybe we'll get a flashback later on where we get to see Razageth's form, because most definitely seeing their visage forms, or their visages... Right, it makes you more attached to them. You feel like you got to know them better. They're so much cooler,
more humanoid form. When we see them, then Verinoth is cold and sullen.
Sure, you're probably right. He's probably pronouncing it correctly.
Fired up. He wants vengeance, but Iridikron
you know what? I speak
is
American.
the rock that keeps them on their purpose.
That's right.
Farak's movement tells you really its own story. He doesn't stand still when he's talking. He's hunched and he kind of bobs around a bit. The way that they speak is great too. Tells you really its own story.
He is right now the most reckless of the three that are left. And that's why I think he's going to die next. It makes sense. I mean, he's also the most involved, it seems like, in 10.1. But definitely, even the way he talks, his personality certainly comes through. He
doesn't stand still when he's talking.
Whereas Iridikron, when he talks, he's very calm, and you could tell he holds strength, right? Like, the way he talks, the rest of them listen to him, the way he moves. And then, oh my God, I forget what her name is. She's so much more quiet, and it seems like kept to herself.
He's hunched and he kind of bobs around a bit. The way that they speak is great too, even if they don't say much. With Farak's laughing, Verinoth's detached airiness, and how deadly serious Iridikron is as a contrast to the other three. though they still speak, I would say, a bit too slowly and a bit too cinematically for most tastes. Even the way they fight, Verinoth and Farak effortlessly
Which incarnate will be a
defeating
questkeeper?
one of the purple crystal elements, each in their own way, really highlighting their power, their mastery over these elements, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, Iridikron destroying a whole bunch of them, barely lifting a finger. That is the textbook, oh shit, these dudes are strong moment. And when you hear about Iridikron having made some terrible bargain, when you hear about him being like properly
The next Galakron, potentially. Yeah.
scary and how brutal he will
Lucius
be.
looks like a
from
rip.
the
Yeah, she does look like a
dragons,
rip-off
and
Winter
you
Queen.
see this
I
and
do
you're
agree
like,
with that
all
one.
right. They're kind of cartoonish.
That's why her model was the least cool of the three.
In a way.
Feels like we've
But
seen
also,
it before.
this is Warcraft. It is a big, silly, fun fantasy universe. We know then that these three are on a warpath for revenge, just like Razageth was. They inherit her motives, and importantly, they inherit her history. But we need to talk a bit more about Iridikron specifically, because people have noticed something extremely obvious. He is intentionally an analog to Deathwing. He is the Earth One. He's the serious leader. He's the strongest. And he's made terrible bargains. Unlike, say, the Jailer, who thought he was definitely going to win all the time and could never really fathom anything else, our new Earth Daddy actually knows that we shouldn't be underestimated.
Yes.
That immediately implies that these villains are actually intelligent, right? It puts a new spin in Razageth too. She was overeager, but she was the Storm Dragon. It kind of makes sense that she was tempestuous. So of course she made the mistake of challenging us head on. That is a flaw in her character, not a flaw in writing, like, say, the Jailers, right? Or the Jailer, you know, his loss felt like it was more because of our plot armor and not much else. But our victory here was because our enemy slipped up, and in haste, we were able to kill her. No ifs and buts. We just slapped her out of the sky without needing a strange MacGuffin. Iridikron, though, on the other hand, he knows stuff that we don't. He's trying to get a step ahead of us.
Yeah, he knows. Iridikron, the way he talks, seems to believe that if we fought him as is, with the help of the dragon aspects, he would lose. So he seems to be trying to get a hold of some type of power or do something before he accepts that match. And when he does finally accept the match, if everything's gone according to plan, he will believe that he is now powerful enough to beat us.
We actually have a villain who is respecting the agency of the player characters and their
don't
allies,
underestimate him.
which is a big step up. If he's like Neltharion, then that comparison immediately copy-pastes everything that we know about Deathwing onto Iridikron. The upcoming madness, the fear of corruption after those bargains, that cold, serious nature, but maybe some notions of past nobility as well. We even have to ask if the forces are the same. Did Void play the dragon family against each other? Or were there two forces using earth dragons as their pawns? Either way, family is a pretty big theme in Dragonflight, and for our villains.
That's right. Oh, no, he didn't.
Family. It's the oldest trick in the book. Comparison, right? When you describe something, you can just get the point across very quickly by saying, oh, it's a bit like that thing.
I can't believe
we do
you
it
did
for
that.
tastes, for games, for smells, for everything. So Blizzard did the same. Oh, your villains? Well, they're like the aspects, but anti-Titan instead of pro-Titan.
Right.
And that means, like with Iridikron and Neltharion, we can think of them in a similar light, as these mythical, storied beings with thousands of years of history behind them. It's an old trick, but it's one that works really damn well. The way that they talk in the cinematic hammers that home. They've done stuff like this before. We've got this whole unspoken history, like when
they seem to know each other in the cinematic, definitely.
Other group of friends, and they all have stories to tell. You just didn't know about them. The aspects and the incarnates used to be family. So you can almost just imagine the scenes, Firak flying around Malagos until he snaps at him, or maybe Virinoth and Ysera sitting together, staring into the distance in silence. If Razageth's visage form had long hair, maybe you could imagine Alexstrasza braiding it or something.
Oh, shit.
That's the stuff that sets up good villains.
Now I'm imagining some hentai shit going down.
Hinting at
Bellular just unlocked a whole
dynamic.
new chapter of hentai.
Nothing else really matters as long as this is done right, and we feel that our villains might actually be people. So I think that really answers that. They're not amazing villains, but they're actually pretty damn good, all things considered.
I like them.
So good work, Blizzard. And to be honest, I can't wait to see how 10.1 develops this cast of characters further. I think Firak will look pretty cool. I'm not sure where Virinoth will go, but I'm interested. And as for Iridikron, I know that they are drawing the comparison to Neltharion because they're doing a lot with the Black Dragonflight, a story that I'm already invested in, but I also know they are doing that because the ways in which Iridikron will deviate from the path of Deathwing as time goes on, those will be, I think, specifically contrasting him. And that will end up being pretty fascinating.
What's up, Ryko?
There you have
Normal clear, do some achievements, probably in the clear, people
who
didn't get them.
We just figured it would be fun to do a little bit of a case study on them and figure out exactly why they're going down better.
Chill day.
I'm sure Blizzard's many teams did all of this quite intentionally, so it's not exactly going to be some brilliant feedback or killer video essay, but I think the point is, we're enjoying it. They're in some ways like Saturday morning cartoon characters, but actually, some of those things went really hard and were really fun. And we have plenty of time to develop these things further, with 10.07 specifically being a prequel patch to 10.1, and me already knowing from the PTR a lot of the lore books, a lot of the setup in 10.07, it actually makes me think that they have a greatly enhanced ability to tell their story and to make these things land. So let me know if you like this kind of breakdown, if you've got a real spicy topic that we should handle next. But other than that, thank you for watching. Let's try to pay attention to those small things a little bit more. We're often a bit lost in the weeds of what's wrong and what kind of messes there are to fix up, and that can warp your perspective. Sometimes it's cool to just say, hey, look at the cool thing. Look how they did it. Nice. Can we have some more, please? Anyway, thank you for watching. Hope you found this to be interesting. I'll see you next time.
That was great. Bellular's the man. Good video. Good video.